Is the executive leader you support quite busy? Does the leader really not have time to attend all the meetings that they're supposed to be at and participate in? I have some insights for you. Hi, I'm Peter Nichol, Data Science CIO. One of the challenges that we all experience is we're overcommitted. We have too many meetings, too many things to do, and there's only so many hours in the day to get all that activity completed. One of the techniques I used a few years ago that recently came up just last week to enable an executive I now support is around optimizing communication models. A lot of times we step into new teams or we're in a team and we just assume the status quo. There's this number of meetings and I have to attend. We don't really look at optimization. And it's a good idea every so often, whether that's monthly or quarterly, to go in and assess the meetings that you're participating in and if you're really making decisions in those meetings. Or does an email just suffice? Can you get an email update and get your awareness and the level of information you need? Or do you truly have to be at that meeting making active decisions? One technique I came up with is to make a list of all the different meetings that your supervisor or boss attends, that executive leader, the CTO, the CFO, all the meetings that you're both in attendance for. And maybe there's 20 or 30 meetings a week that you're both jointly in and attending. Probably not required. Then start to make a list of who's attending those meetings, who's really actively managing those discussions. And then start to identify which meetings you think you could take over as a leader and provide updates in a more formal context, whether it's meeting minutes or a general summary at the end of the week, to alleviate some of those meeting demands that your executive needs to support. What this does is it does two things. It elevates your role in the environment and gets you some additional visibility as you attend some of these executive level discussions. But secondarily, it helps free up your supervisor or your executive that you support from attending some meetings that might not be value added. One of the things I did just in the past week is I made a list of all the different meetings that myself and the executive I support attend. There was almost 25 meetings that we both attended that were important and where we were making decisions. What I realized is we both didn't need to be there, and I was able to offload a lot of those meetings. If you're able to quantify how many meetings occur, whether they're weekly, daily, biweekly, monthly, whatever, and start to total those up and come up with a common denominator of hours per month or something that's generic that allows you to quantify and compare apples to apples in terms of those savings and ultimately the hours avoided. So if you can eliminate half the meetings and free up 15 or 20 hours a week, that's almost like 50% of the time. Maybe it's not 20 hours a week. Maybe it's 20 hours a month. Even so, that's a big impact for an executive to free up and focus on more strategic initiatives. So one aspect as a leader is to free up others to be thinking more strategic. If that supervisor isn't in the weeds, they're going to be thinking ahead and removing roadblocks ahead of the time for that team and that department. So as you jump into the new week, start to reflect on some of the communication styles that you've enabled and the meetings that you're attending. And think for a second, am I really needed in this meeting? Or is there a meeting that I can pick up for my boss to make his life or her life a little bit easier? Hi, I'm Peter Nichol, Data Science CIO. Have a great week.